Hello, listeners. For today's episode, we've got another collab. We'll be talking about the practice of paying it forward. This is a topic that's super close to my heart. It's one that I credit a lot of my career success to so far. So over the past few years, I've had mentors, teachers, and people from our community guiding me in my own journey. And honestly, I wouldn't be where I am today without them. Today, I'm joined by Darren, Kim, and Emma, who are all community builders, mentors, and instructors. They have been leading the way with paying it forward, and I'm just so excited to hear from them and for you all to get a lot of value from our conversation today. So without further ado, Darren, Kim, Emma, hello. Thank you so much for joining me. I have to say, it's so nice to see all of you virtually. And we've had like a long conversation before we started the episode, but it was just really nice to catch up with you all and see all your energy, like, you know, come out of the screen. It's just been wonderful. So just to kick us all off, let's start with a few intros. I'd like to start with you, Darren. Hello.
Hello, I'm Darren. I work as a software developer by day. Outside of work, really like to travel, but obviously at the moment it's not possible. So when that's a thing again, I'll do that more. But in the meantime, because I like it so much, been actually working a lot on a side project. It's like an open source couch surfing alternative platform, which it's going pretty well. So that's what I've been busy doing over the past couple of months, really.
That's so exciting. Yeah, I think we talked about having a separate episode about all of the open source stuff that you've been doing. But again, we'll delve into that in like a future episode. But yeah, Darren is one of my close friends. We've been friends since 2016 when we first had our first coffee together
Wow.
at university. It's been so long now, but yeah.
Time has passed so quickly.
It's so quick, isn't it? And yeah, we were instructors together on the Code First Girls course in Sheffield. So again, we can talk about that later on in the episode. And Kim, do you want to give a short introduction about yourself?
Hello, Kim. That's not actually my full name. My full name is Tien Kim, but it's just so hard to pronounce, so hence why I shortened it to Kim. I'm a software engineer and tech coach at Tech Returners, and I'm a tech workshop creator and mentor as well. So I love creating things for tech education, sharing my experiences with the community and seeing people learn and grow in their technical skills and confidence. So in my spare time, I'm kind of getting back into climbing now that the gyms are open again. So I'm really pumped up, although I felt quite weak this morning for my first climb in a couple of months. And I also play some video games on my Nintendo Switch. So Animal Crossing, Monster Hunter, you name it. I've been going through the game. So that's me in a nutshell.
Oh, that's so lovely. Thanks. It's so exciting to have you here, Kim, because your tech coach experience and just your activity in the communities that you're a part of, it's so inspiring to see. So excited to speak with you today. And finally, Emma, hello.
Hello. So my name is Emma. I'm a software engineer at BT. I'm also heavily involved in teaching. So I'm a coding instructor at Coursera and I'm a lead instructor for Code First Girls. And a bit like Kim and Darren, I work a lot with mentoring people. I mentor people through Code First Girls and I mentor a lot of people just externally, just around kind of breaking down barriers and getting a lot more people into tech and just making tech a wee bit more inclusive. So outside of work, I, a bit like Darren, love to travel. Unfortunately, at the minute, that won't happen. But the second we are able to, I'll be out of the country. But besides that, I love to paint. I paint really badly, trying to get better. I'll decorate my new house with all my horrible paintings. I love to read. I love to get outdoors. And just with the gyms opening up, get back to the gym. And I love to hike and just do new things and just get out of my comfort zone.
Yeah, honestly, Emma, it's so lovely to have you here because we know each other from BT, where I used to work, and you've been just pivotal in the mentoring, in the teaching, in all the different communities you're a part of. And, you know, we've got guests, all the guests I have today are just so exciting, and I'm just so excited to talk through all of your experiences. So just to start then, you've all sort of mentioned here that you've had some sort of a teaching or like coaching experience in tech. In fact, I know all of us has contributed in one way or another through the Code First Girls community at some point in our lives, and it's really cool. I've met some cool people from the Code First Girls community, and so for the people that are listening right now and they're like, I don't know what Code First Girls is, let me tell you. They are a non-profit organization and they work on closing the gender gap in tech. And over the last few years now, they've run coding courses from like introduction to front-end development, Python courses, and recently our very own Emma has been leading in the MySQL courses across the UK for female students to learn how to code. And it's so incredible. They're doing some amazing things. So my question for our guests today, could you tell me a bit about what motivated you to get involved with teaching with Code First Girls, as well as your other contributions? I'll go to you, Kim, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. So I'm involved in several organisations here in the UK. So organisations like CodeBar and the coding charity, running workshops for the community, Code First Girls, as well as doing workshops with my friends as part of tech skills workshops. So in terms of my motivation, I just really like to evolve the way that we teach coding. I think a lot of people feel very intimidated by the amount of stuff to learn out there, or they feel like they need to be good at maths or have a computer science degree. So part of my mission statement is to essentially give back and volunteer my time to be able to teach others, and just seeing them smile and get something working on their screen just brings me a lot of joy. And that's it. I think it's just that joyful element, and also breaking down the barriers for people getting into their first role in tech.
Yeah, no, that's really, really fantastic. I love everything you said there, just because we've not met in person yet, but the content that you put out there and the feedback I've seen from other people, it just really resonates with your ethos as a person, and it's just so inspiring to see. So yeah, no, thank you for that. Emma, have you got anything to add from your perspective, and what motivated you to get involved?
Yeah, so definitely for me it was, so I come from a marketing degree, and it was during my marketing degree when I worked for a tech startup that I actually decided that I actually want to be the person building products and making sure that we build products that are customer centric and that people actually want and need. So I was kind of second year at uni, didn't know, like, should I leave uni, how to get into tech? And it was like an absolute whirlwind when you're sitting there and all you want to do is get into tech and you don't know how to. So I had really amazing people who like pushed me towards doing the master's in software development. And then now I'm working in a job that I absolutely love. And if it wasn't for people like that, then I would never have been where I am today, in a job that I literally can honestly say I love going to work every day. So for me, it was just, whenever I went into BT, I was always wanting to pay it forward. So I got to lead a project called MTech, where in Northern Ireland, we went into schools. We had 3 schools we particularly worked with, and we were there to kind of upskill them, help them build a mobile technologies project for their community, and there just to get them really excited by tech. So I absolutely loved it. And then when COVID hit, I kind of fell into Code First Girls teaching. Some of the girls who I had worked with in BT actually came from Code First Girls, a boot camp that they did. And I remember when I met them being like, wow, you must have been like 4 years computer science degrees, or like unbelievable. And they were like, no, we literally came from Code First Girls. So I'd always been interested in being an instructor. So when COVID hit, and I don't know about anyone else, I got really overwhelmed, and just everyone on Twitter was building their own projects, and I was like, I'm just trying to like keep alive. Like, what can I do that like I still feel like I'm contributing to the community, but it's not like really overwhelming me, and I can take a wee bit of time just to like get really settled in being back at home. It was a big adjustment, but from there, and kind of being, as you had said, Pawlean, I'm kind of being the first cohort of instructors to teach the data science. I kind of have just continued since then, teaching with Code First Girls, and then being their lead instructor. And then I fell into kind of teaching with Coursera. But for me, my motivations was, one, paying it forward and making it a bit more inclusive. Because if it wasn't for the people who were helping me whenever I decided I wanted to join in tech, I would never have a job that I love. So being able to do that for someone else was just something, and just making people know that you actually can do this, and having a separate background is actually really important. You see things that other people don't see. But as well, for me, it was definitely twofold. I wanted to get more comfortable speaking technically. So by having to actually teach people, I felt like a knowledge transfer is a humongous part of my role, training up other developers. This was kind of a twofold thing for me, where I could get that chance to kind of get really comfortable having to speak technically, having to debug on the spot, having to just get myself a wee bit more confident too. And I've absolutely loved it. So it's definitely been a twofold thing for me, and it's been amazing.
No, that's so, everything you said there is just, I share the exact same feelings. Like I'm sure, like I'll move on to Darren, and I think you'll probably touch on what I'm thinking, so I'll move on to you first before I add my little piece.
Yeah, I think both Kim and Emma's like covered a lot of the core points about, just the feel good of giving back and just wanting to make things easier for people starting out. But I think where I'm maybe a bit more unique is like, I'm both coming from a computer science background, but I'm also considered quite a late starter, quote unquote. What I mean by that is like, I didn't start coding when I'm like, since I'm like 7-year-old or something, playing on MySpace or don't know, Bebo or something like that. I actually started quite late in uni, so I was always like catching up with my peers who've done like GCSE or A-level computing. So I feel like part of my motivation was I wanted to bring my perspective in and hopefully be more relatable for people who are just starting as well, to show that you don't have to start at like 7. Like you literally, if you put your mind to it, you can start at any time. So hopefully, I was hoping like my experience, I can use that to my advantage to help relate that to people when I teach. And then also being in computer science, the first thing I noticed, which is the severely unhealthy imbalance of like gender, just proportion. Like there's just basically 95% male. Like when I think it was about 100 odd people on my course, and it's only about 4 or 5 people that were female or of other gender identities, which is like quite sad to see. And yeah, I just wanted to change that. And yeah, being part of something like Code First Girls, I feel like that's me doing my part to help change the industry, hopefully for the better. And even though it's in computer science, it kind of is reflective of the industry. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. And let me just let the record show. Like Darren and I taught a few of the Code First Girls courses at the University of Sheffield back in 2016 up to 2018. So we did both the even though you weren't an instructor in the front ends course, Darren, you were always there week on week on week, and I was always there in your Python. I wasn't an instructor, but I went there week on week on week because we both shared that sort of sentiment of trying to improve the industry, and we both felt like, you know, being involved with Code First Girls and having the small impact on a small group of 30 students per class, it just made us feel like we were contributing. And you know, I can't really speak for all the other courses that you've both been in, Kim and Emma, but Darren and we've got so many success stories in Sheffield, and it's so sometimes I go back to the Code First Girls Sheffield courses and the alumni that were a part of that, and I go back and I look at their LinkedIn profiles, and they're all software engineers, and I'm just like, we did that, we did that, we contributed to that, and it's so nice.
They became like data scientists and somehow got into tech. Is like amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. And like, you know, Code First Girls really opened that for them, and it's just great to have been a part of that. So yeah, no, thank you so much for sharing your contributions and what motivated you to get involved. I'm actually feeling a bit emotional, like thinking about like how we all care so much about the community and improving the wider industry. It's really heartwarming. So God, I'm getting genuinely really teary. So for my next question, I think we've actually talked about why. Sorry, I'll edit this bit out, but I'm just trying to. Yeah, I think I'll skip over to the third question just because we've talked about why it's sort of important to be a part of these. So for my third question, I get asked this all the time, but how can people be involved in these communities? And like if someone right now is thinking, oh, I want to be part of like paying it forward, how do I get involved? How is there a criteria? I know that like some people come to me and they say, oh my god, I'd love to help out, but I only know the basics. I only know HTML and CSS. Like, can I be an instructor? And they sort of get that imposter syndrome, you know. So my sort of question is it really all right for them to get involved even if they aren't experts per se themselves? And yeah, Emma, do you want to kick us off with that one?
Happily. The one thing I would say, if someone's sitting there saying, I only know the basics, that is 100% how I felt. And I think it's like such an imposter syndrome thing. I remember when this came forward to me and was like, you're going to teach data science and SQL. I'm like, I'm a back-end engineer and I haven't done SQL since uni. But I took the challenge and I got familiar with the things again. And one thing I would say is you're surprised what you already know. And you do, like whenever you go through the content and stuff like that, you were really surprised at how much you already know, how much you just pick up from your job and able to like actually share this content with someone. So what I would say is Code First Girls, for example, have a load of ways to get involved. They have their fellowship that you can be part of, where you kind of get trained up as well. You can teach on their career switcher courses, on their normal courses that they do for people in universities, which are all really, really amazing opportunities for you to come in. And you'd be paired with other instructors as well. So every time I teach a cohort of students and I have another instructor, I always see what our strengths are. What are you more comfortable in? What pieces of like the curriculum do you want to take? What pieces I feel like I'm strongest in? And then you can see where the gaps are in the bits that maybe you're like, I'll focus on this, so you can focus on that. And you can make yourself a really, really strong team. So what I would say is if you ever want to pay it forward, just get involved. You can get involved with your local communities. I'm heavily involved with Women in Code. I'm a city lead in Belfast. So we can run technical workshops that are a wee bit less than kind of taking a full, you know, like 8 weeks or 4 weeks course that you're teaching, but there's millions of ways to get involved, whether it's going into universities and doing talks if you really want to pay it forward. It's just finding kind of in your area those people like Women in Code or any of the different community groups that you have, Code First Girls if you want to do it remotely, or their Code Bar that Kim's involved with. There's millions of other ways. So what I would say is just do a wee bit of research, chat to other people who are doing it. I get a lot of messages from other software engineers from LinkedIn being like, I really want to do this. Like, what would you suggest? And, you know the company kind of inside out, like, what do you think, where can I add value and stuff? So I would say, like, never feel afraid to message someone on LinkedIn, because 95% of the time, anytime I've done it or anytime that someone messages me, I will message back. So, and a lot of people, you'll find that you relate to other people, as in all of us here want to pay it forward, so we're all really supportive of each other. So you find that it's just a really, really supportive community to be involved in, and you meet some incredible people. So if you're sitting there saying that I only know the basics, get involved, because you will learn so much. But you'll also get connections and network with people who just really, really support and care about you. And definitely it was one of the best decisions that I've ever done, was kind of putting myself forward to be an instructor, even though I was absolutely terrified, and still get terrified when I take a break and come back. So you just learn to kind of get yourself more knowledgeable each time you do it. So
Yeah, and there's also like roles, like for example, when I first got involved with Code First Girls, I didn't sign up to be a full-on like instructor at first. I was like the ambassador. And so even though I'm Darren smiling right now, but podcast listeners can't see him smile, but if you watch this on YouTube, you can see him smile, because he's probably thinking of all the times I ran around with my Code First Girls t-shirts around campus, like, join Code First Girls, because it was so great.
No, and then you with like your Beyonce slides and the CSS
oh yes,
section
exactly.
of the course, and then you say you
Yeah.
don't know anything, and
Well,
it was great just looking at
yeah.
those slides.
Oh, thanks, Darren. Yeah, I think it's one of those things that at first I was first an ambassador, because I felt like I wasn't 100% ready to be an instructor, because again, like you described, Emma, I had that like imposter syndrome. I was just terrified. But then as I sort of got used to sitting in all of the classes and hearing the same content like every semester, I sort of was like, actually I can do this. And like it was 2 summers ago in 2019, I became the lead instructor in Leeds for a Code First Girls summer intensive course. And that was so scary for me, because I taught most of the content, but also like tried to encourage all the other speakers or the other instructors who are a bit like, oh, I'm not too sure, I'm a bit scared, I'm sort of like just volunteering on the side, to try and get them to like speak up and like teach the class, and that turned out really well. So yeah, it's just one of those things you sort of have to throw yourself into. Kim, is there anything you'd like to add from your experience, and what would you say to beginners who want to get involved?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a career switcher myself, and I entered the tech industry or coding, wrote my first line of code when I was attending Code First Girls as a student and also Code Bar as a student. So that was back in a long time ago now, 2017, 2018. And I was so nervous, and I wouldn't volunteer, I wouldn't speak up, I wouldn't do anything. I would like hide away in the corner and look at people opening up their code, and I didn't have a clue, what a terminal was on my Mac, let alone, write some code. So my confidence wasn't very good at the beginning, and to me, it took me a while to build up that confidence. And part of the reason why was because I set a criteria in my head for when the time is ready for me to actually go and volunteer and be credible. All I can say, if you're a beginner, is that the industry doesn't have a criteria for you. It's the criteria that you set in yourself. So if you are struggling to sort of make the leap to write that blog that you've been meaning to write, or maybe you want to pair program with someone, or maybe you want to volunteer to do a lightning talk, do it. Do it anyway, like sign up. And I know it sounds a bit freaky at first. You might sign up and you might have like a moment of panic, being like, oh my goodness me, why did I just sign up for that? Help! But then you have like a panic beforehand. But once you've done it, it's really good for your confidence, and you can also seek feedback from people on how you can improve. And I'm feeling that every day. So when I took on this role as a tech coach at Tech Returners, one of the job specifications was, Kim, you're going to be teaching people who are mid to senior level in technology. And I'm only 2 years or a year and a half into a software engineering role myself. So every day I literally have to learn the materials, curate the content and the sessions, and deliver the sessions to people who are going to ask me very tricky questions, because they're the experts as well, right? So I'm finding that by teaching others and by volunteering and running sessions and writing blogs, it's having a positive feedback on my own learning. So I'm finding that concepts are sticking a bit better now. So concepts like object-oriented programming, test-driven development, all these words that maybe a year or two ago in my first 2 roles in tech, I never really understood. I just got the code working. I think I wrote it on my recent blog, just write something, just make it work. But now I'm having to slow down and think carefully, how do I articulate this tricky concept to someone who is actually new at it? And it's making me feel a lot more conscious about my own learning as well. So if you are a beginner, don't just learn from tutorials. Don't just, read things blindly. Go out there, join communities like Code Bar, Free Code Camp, Code First Girls, and just get stuck in and ask to pair program, ask if you can volunteer for a session, because there'll be people there to help mentor you to get there.
Yeah, no, that's so great. I think like what you said about just throwing yourself out there and just going for it, that's sort of the way to go, I would say. But it can be a bit freaky, but like you said, I think everyone feels like that when they jump in and give it a go. But yeah, congrats on giving it a go. And I didn't know you were only a year.
I am. I'm only
a year.
I'm only a year and a half into software engineering, and all of a sudden,
and you're teaching senior developers.
You're
exactly.
amazing, Kim.
Like
That's
the
incredible.
other day, I had to teach something in React, and literally I only just learnt React myself. And sometimes sometimes I wonder, oh wow, how did I get into this role in the first place? And to be honest, like the job description was massive. And I remember having my interview and thinking, I've only met 20% of what's written there in terms of technology, but I went for the role anyway, and I got the role
That is really
for some
encouraging.
reason.
I would say if anyone,
Because you're incredible.
Yeah.
any
hard.
takeaway from this, take this away. Like when you apply to things, literally just bloody go for it.
Yeah.
Like it's a
Yeah.
wish list, job descriptions. You're never gonna hit 100% of the requirements.
Yeah.
And I think it tends to be people
And
that
also
are.
the person who's writing it.
What's that?
Yeah.
Apologies.
Exactly.
Sorry, apologies, Art. The people who are writing it sometimes are HR and have no idea actually
That's
what
it.
they're hiring as
Yeah.
well. So they'll put like things in. I remember the funniest one I seen was like a junior, like an entry level role, and it was like 3 to 5 years and like
No, that's,
HTML, CSS, and like JavaScript. And you were like, who at entry level
yeah,
has
that's
3 to 5
basically
years?
like a
So-
mid-level to senior engineer
Yeah.
with that amount of experience, I would say. So
Exactly.
it's just crazy.
Yeah, no, that you're all right. Like that is the me. I think that's probably a quote I'm gonna put like to advertise this podcast. Like everything, just what Kim just said. No, that's so good, and it really is encouraging for people who want to get involved with teaching, because it shows that you don't need to have years and years of experience to put yourself out there and to start teaching and paying it forward. Darren, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, so the thing about being beginners, I think one thing I would add is the common fear, I think, when you feel like you're not good enough because the imposter syndrome is kicking your ass, is not knowing how to answer difficult questions. And I think my number one response to that is just be honest and say you don't know, and actually be open to do the research and say like, oh, I don't know, but I'll do some research and get back to you, and actually take that as a learning opportunity and learn with the student. I mean, a number of times I've learned things like, especially, well, you've done the Python course for me, Pawlean, so you know like number of times people setting up their Python on Windows and all these weird things.
Got a headache.
I'm a pro as a result of doing the Code for Girls course. I'm not even joking. Like I don't use Windows on Python myself that much. So those problems that the students were coming across, and I was even like, oh, am I even qualified enough to help them? I have no idea what's going on. But then I've just said like, I don't know, I'm going to research and get back to you. And I've learned so much from doing that. So yeah, so don't let that stop you from thinking about getting involved. And the other thing I wanted to say is just because you think you have to be an expert, and I would actually counter argue that like when you're an expert, you forgot some of the struggles that you had when you were a beginner. So I would say when you're an expert, you're actually more terrible at explaining things to beginners, because then so say like, I don't know, with React, because I work with React a lot recently, you would just throw some jargons like, oh yeah, you just write this hook and whatever and reshare this functionality, and that just means like complete garbage to beginners. but in your head, you're just like, it all makes sense. So like I would say you actually have an advantage for not being an expert, because you can share those same struggles with people who are just learning, and hopefully you'll be able to teach things in a more accessible way than an expert would be able to. So use that to your advantage.
Yeah, no, everything you said there, spot on. I just wanted to say, Darren, like it was really nice to see you go from the first few sessions of the Python course where you were like running around the room like, oh no, I don't know how to solve this Python Windows problem, and then to the end when I was just about to leave, you were like, oh yeah, I would be like, oh, Darren knows how to fix this, come on, Darren. It was great. It was a proper like learning growth.
I think that's like the most important thing that I always say to my students as well, is like every time I take a cohort, I'll be asked a different question that I've never been asked before. And I think I remember like you obviously for the database have to build your own database, and some of my students were very stressed because it was like over 4 weeks and it was 2 nights a week. It was a lot of work. and these are all career switchers, so the people who have responsibilities, have a day job, have children. So I remember we decided, we were like, okay, we'll just do like a session where you can come in, you can just troubleshoot for like 2 hours. It'll be really, really like just really relaxed. You can come in with your issues and we'll do it together. And they were saying, and then I was coding along with them, and like I had to Google syntax for stuff, and they were like, oh, do you not just like know how to like just code off the top of your head? And I'm like, so you forget things. I was like, we're not human, like we're not absolute robots and superheroes here. I was like, you just understand like what you have to do. Like I know looking at that you need an inner join. I might need to just recap on the exact syntax, but that's okay to do. And I think once I had an experience like that, they were all like, oh, I was just so focused on like learning all the syntax. And I was like, that's not the point of it. It's understanding like the concepts, understanding like what you need to use. But none of us are perfect. And I think it's like, I loved what Darren said just around, you know what I mean, being actually at like kind of like entry level and not like senior level teaching is like really important, because you do like having to break things down in a like clear and concise way that you would just forget. Like when you get to senior level, you just do. And you see that in work as well. Sometimes you're paired with someone and they're just away doing it, and you're like, I don't know what you're doing at all. I am so confused. So I think like you do have that advantage where you can kind of strip things back, understand the pain points that someone who's struggling would understand. And I also say a lot of the time, some things will click really quickly when you're an instructor and when you're instructing, but also for your students, just to remember that some things will click for them. They might understand one concept really well and struggle with the next. So it's trying to get them like really comfortable and eased with kind of what the journey of like learning to code is like. There's some things that you learn instantly. There's some things that will take you months just before you kind of fully understand it, but that's all okay. And it's making them understand, as students, that you're not just going to be a superhero. Everything's not just going to click for you, and if it doesn't click, that's like such a bad thing. You shouldn't be in this industry. That is not it. Some things in work takes me like a few weeks to fully get your head around, and then when it does, you're like, oh, I actually do understand that. So doesn't mean that you're not suitable to be in this career, doesn't mean that you're not suitable to be teaching. Just throw yourself into things that you love and you'll find that you will grow. And as Darren said, like the first time you teach for the first time, you'll learn a lot. And then now I feel like I'm really comfortable, I'm kind of streamlined, and I know that like I will always still ask for feedback, because even though I've done this for a year, I still have things to learn and I still have things to progress myself in teaching and to become better. And it's understanding what other people need as well. And you find that the more you teach, that you understand what kind of things virtually as well that you need to like change up. And it's like not getting into the swing of only teaching like one certain way. It's trying to better yourself as well, depending on who you're teaching. I would usually only have taught 7 people. I'm now teaching 26 this time. So I have to like completely change how I would present content to be able to troubleshoot 26 people if something goes wrong with my assistant. So it's always trying to better yourself, and it's okay that a year later I have to change maybe how I would have felt comfortable teaching. That's how you learn, that's how you grow, and that's how you continue to be a good instructor.
Yeah, no, everything you said there is spot on. I think what you said around like, showing your students that you're actually Googling things and that you're actually like going through that process makes them feel a lot less like, oh, I need to know everything. And that's fantastic that, you've had that experience. Yeah, I mean, I remember when I used to be teaching the front end course, I used to type in like, how do you create a table in HTML, because tables just don't stick in my head. I've been using them for years, so every single time I have to Google how to create a table in HTML, and like students have seen it and they've been like, oh,
the structure
okay.
is not obvious, right?
No, it's not damn tables.
And also I want to throw in a disclaimer in case you keep the reference when I say React. For those hardcore React people, I didn't mean to say use hawks as in higher order components. That's the old pattern of doing things, but it's just got stuck in my head because there's still some at my work. So yes, don't shoot down at me. I do know React.
He does. Darren is a great React person. So there you go. So no, that was all fantastic. Experiences shared by all of you around paying it forward through teaching. And now I just want to move on to mentoring, because I think another aspect that we've all sort of touched on before is we've been a mentor or even a mentee at some point in our lives, and it's been really nice that we can also pay forward in that sense. So how do you approach mentoring when someone asks to be mentored by you, like what are the steps that you've taken to make sure that it's the best possible opportunity for them, and how can you sort of how can people make the most out of that mentorship opportunity? Because I know like a lot of people, when you talk about mentoring, they're like, yes, I want a mentor, but they don't really understand what they want from them. They sort of sometimes just want someone to listen to them, and that's fine as well, but it is a lot better when there's more of a streamlined approach. And so I'll go to you first, Darren. Do you want to share sort of like your tips and tricks around like being a mentor?
I feel like because I've not really ever had an official mentee, so to speak, they've all been like through sort of semi-informal formats. So through things like doing Co-First Girls or even Co-Bar, I've got involved in their online format for a while. Still want to get back to it actually. So this is probably going to sound more generic, and hopefully Kim and Emma can add to it. But I would say the first thing would be find out something about the person you're mentoring, like what they want to achieve, what they want to get out of the session. Is it about career coaching, like helping them getting a job, or do they want more technical help, like, oh, I don't really understand X concept in SQL or React, whatever that might be. And then from there, I guess you set out some kind of plans and expectations on how to help them achieve that goal. So I guess for more technical stuff, could be like a case of you suggest them doing a course, and then every week you have a check-in point with them and see how they get on, and provide that as an opportunity for them to ask you questions about technical things. So I think that's probably how I would go about doing that, and probably quite similar, I would say, for people who want more like career specific mentoring. Just whenever they're preparing their CV or just before an interview, maybe have a touch point. So yeah, some kind of schedule and expectation. And I think maybe as well, like set an expectation that doesn't have to be like a permanent thing as well, because I think that the handoff point of when you're like, okay, I no longer want to mentor you or need to be mentored by you by either direction. I feel like that always feel like a bit of an awkward conversation when it doesn't have to be. It's not like, I mean, it does feel like a breakup maybe in some way, but it doesn't have to be, right? Like you can still keep in touch as friends, but maybe when you get to that point, it just means that you're not getting values out from each other. So I think like it's setting those expectations again.
Yeah, no, that is like spot on. I think like I think a lot of people may go into mentorships and they're like, oh yeah, I definitely want this, but they don't know what they want and they don't set their expectations, and sometimes it can be disappointing on both sides. So yeah, definitely set those expectations, and also the expectation of what happens when you feel like you've got enough from them. Like you said, it doesn't have to be awkward, you just have to be honest. That's it. That's the rule of life. Kim, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
I really agree with what Darren mentioned. It's definitely a two-way process, and part of being a mentor is also taking care of yourself and making sure that you have the capacity to be able to mentor people, because if you are mentoring too many people, your mentees might not get the full benefit of you. So I'm mentoring around 10 to 12 people at the moment, and we meet on a monthly basis. So in terms of the mentorship, I would have like an initial call just to set the scene and ask whether it would be like a one-off mentoring or whether it's a long-term mentoring. And again, it's very casual, very open. It's more of a chat really, because you're mentoring each other. It's not this idea of having a mentor who's like a teacher-student relationship. So it's a two-way process. And in the first session, it's about discovering what people's mission is, their values. So I always get my mentees to write down a couple of key nouns or key words for what they feel passionate about. So it can be something non-tech related as well, because a lot of my mentees come and they're thinking, how do I get a job in tech, or how do I become like a tech influencer? How do I market myself authentically in tech without going crazy, And I always tell them, take a step back, think about what your values are, because your values will carry you throughout the rest of your life, regardless of the industry that you're working in and regardless of the role that you're in. And from your values, we'll work together to create a mission statement. And the mission statement is something that you can change over time and evolve along with your life. It's not like a stamp that you have to carry, on and be like, that's you for the rest of your life. You're branded for life now. And it's similar to how a company works. They have a series of values and mission statements, and that underpins what I do, and also lets me know when to say no to things, or when to say, actually, I'm not the right mentor for you. How about this person? And I've been getting better at just saying no and saying, look, let's have an initial chat. If I'm not suited to you, or you're feeling like you might need to learn something, then I'll introduce you to someone else. And what I have is I have a spreadsheet for my mentees where we go through a 3-month program. And what the 3-month program is, we set one goal for those 3 months. And then we have like a reflection sheet. So what went well, what didn't go so well. And then I feel awesome section. And the reason why it's 3 months is because things move quickly, things are unpredictable, and it's no point setting concrete goals too far into the future because it doesn't give you a lot of flexibility. But it's good to have like dream goals, like a year goal or something to aim for, but having a 3-month horizon makes it feel a little bit more tangible. So we go and review that every month, and then some of my mentees are going to be attending my first ever I Am Remarkable workshop as well, in the hope that they'll become an I Am Remarkable facilitator. And it's a Google initiative to essentially help people in terms of the confidence for self-promotion and be able to create wonderful communities for those who are underrepresented, essentially in various industries, not just technology. So yeah, it's a two-way thing. And when you have to say, let's put things on pause because my life's going a bit crazy right now, then that you should be open to that at the outset. So at the moment, I've actually put things on pause with my mentees temporarily while I'm getting stuck into my role, and that's fine. So it's take care of yourself as a mentor, and in terms of being a mentee, you can mentor the mentee. So there's no hierarchy. So you, as a mentee, you can become a mentor in the future. And a lot of people ask me, how do I get involved in mentorship? Code First Girls is one avenue. Code Bar, again, is another great avenue. And you can also go on Dev2 or go on Twitter and see if anyone needs help. You can also mentor by sending a message to someone to make them feel, okay, because you'll see a lot of people with bad mental health now because of COVID. So just reach out to people, be like, are you okay? Do you want to chat? Do you want to DM me? And let's have a chat. So yeah, that's a very long-winded answer to the question there.
Everything you said there, Kim, I the only thing I got from there is like, message Kim to be my mentor. That's all I got from that.
Yeah, message Kim for a chat when you're feeling low.
No,
I need to clone myself, honestly. Yeah. I need to clone myself because I've had to, unfortunately, say no to people. Some people have offered to even pay for mentorship, and I literally said, look, I can't take this on at the moment because I need to be focused on very few things in my life to have a good work-life balance, to be able to do things well. And I'd like to keep it that way. So at the moment, I'm not open to any mentees at the moment, but do check out my Twitter or website to see in the future if I do, have some spaces.
Yeah, I love how you touched on being a mentor and focusing on also your mental health and your capacity, because like you said, you can't be a effective mentor when you're taking too much on and you have that sort of your mind is clouded with so many different things. You can't really focus on the mentee and their needs. So yeah, no, fantastic advice there. How about you, Emma?
Yeah, so my process would kind of be quite similar to Kim's, but not as unreal as Kim's is, to admit. But I think the first thing would always do is also tell them a lot about me and kind of where I'm looking to go as well. And a lot like Kim is just, it's through saying what I'm doing and trying to understand what they're looking to do. It's to kind of see whether we are a good fit. And I think that's really important. I think making sure that you are the best person to speak to is the only way that you're going to get an effective mentorship relationship. And if it's not me, then it's usually someone else that I know or someone else that I can pass them on to, not so that you're just kind of like, bye. No one will mentor you. It's kind of nice to be able to pass them on to kind of someone else who you're like, this is literally the person that you should speak to, who will get you, like to that point. It's definitely a two-way street. I've learned so much from my mentees as well. And I think it's just trying to understand where they're going and where they would like to go, because I think, and setting realistic goals as well, because goals are so different in other companies. So in the sense of, if someone's saying, I want to work for a big company and I want to get to senior, that's going to be a lot different of kind of a way to get there than working in a startup and trying to get to senior. So it's trying to understand like where they actually want to work in the industry. What type of technologies do they want to work for? Obviously if you're looking at bigger companies, sometimes there's legacy code, which I would work on sometimes, and different things. So it's then maybe you might be more suited to kind of a startup where they're really like looking at kind of what technologies and new technologies that they could use. So it's just trying to understand where they actually want to go, what they're interested in. I think what Kim said just around like their values is really important. And I think that's something that probably we all have, is kind of our values that we hold tight to, and that kind of helps us make decisions. And I think sometimes all someone wants to do whenever they're trying to get into tech or trying to make their big move is just have someone to kind of vent to and to talk to. But I think a lot of the stuff as well is understanding that your mentorship relationship, if after kind of a few months you feel like you've gotten through, maybe it was help with the project or it was help with kind of confidence and where to kind of go next and kind of get into tech, it doesn't have to then be kind of this big strained relationship. I meet up with a lot of people I previously mentored just for like a coffee for a half an hour every month. And it's more of a catch up as well, because you realize that you actually have a lot in common, and it's quite nice, especially as Darren said, if there's not a lot of females in tech, a lot of people I would mentor are females. So it's nice to just meet more people and just for a really casual catch up and just to check if there's anything else that I can give them advice on or just to chat to. But I think mental health is the most, like, a really, really important topic. And I think what Kim said, I went into one or two mentoring relationships where, I had a lot of personal stuff going on at home, and I probably shouldn't have, but I think we are the type of personalities of people who pay it forward, and you near enough feel guilt to say no. I think that's a really, really difficult thing, and I've had to learn is just saying no doesn't mean that I'm this like horrible person. It just means that, I'm trying to also progress my career, and if I can't give you the full capacity of my mentorship, then it's not going to end well. And I remember this was all happening, and then I went in for it. That was the one-to-one ever I've had in work where I said myself, I feel like I haven't grown as much. I've never had a situation like that. So I feel like you also need to prioritize your own growth, because I think getting involved in all of these things outside of work, you don't want to burn yourself out and then feel like you're not actually progressing. So I think mentorship's such a positive thing. I absolutely love it. And I feel like you get so much out of it from being a mentor and a mentee. And I've been both sides. And I think you make amazing relationships. And I wouldn't be where I am today without the mentors I've had. So I love paying it forward and meeting new people and helping them out. But I think it's also important too, as Kim said, put yourself forward as well. You are the number one person here. You can't burn yourself out, and you want to be somewhere someday you have your own goals. So as long as you feel that you're not overwhelmed and that you can still do everything, don't feel afraid to take a step back for a month, for 2 months, focus on your career. And then you will find that you're actually really motivated and want to come back and do more as well. So just do care about yourself is my number one thing, and prioritize yourself as well.
No, that's so good. That's spot on. I think what you mentioned about like just taking care of yourself and prioritizing you is really important, because I've got to a stage before where I'm like, oh, I did a lot of things. I was teaching, I was mentoring, I was like doing 2 different jobs and all sorts of different things. And it got to a point where I really burnt myself out. And so when people asked me for help, I just couldn't give them that like not that high quality that I wanted to give them in terms of mentorship or just general help. So yeah, definitely prioritize yourself. That's a really important take-home message from this. And finally, we're almost at the end of our episode. It's gone by so quickly, but I wanted to end on such a positive note. And we've talked a lot about how important it is to pay it forward and how we wouldn't be who we are today without the mentors and the people who have paid it forward for us. So I'll just go around the group, and I'd like you all to tell me about a mentor that has changed your life for the better. Darren, I'll go with you.
So I think like the previous question, I not really like officially have a mentor, so to speak, but then when I think about it more broadly, people around you at work, like in your team, they are like your mentor in some way. So I think the one shout out I would say is probably for my current team lead / manager, Anastasia, who she's just been great recently. I think for this past year, whenever I have any sort of thoughts or questions about like how do I approach certain things, it's been really helpful to just be able to chat with her in one-to-ones to find out a plan of attack on how to go about approaching things and take it further from there. So yeah, shout out to my manager.
Oh, that's so sweet. Right, Kim, how about you?
I've got a few people that are sort of my friends that I've only met this past year. It's kind of weird because we set up like a tech skills workshops crew, and we've been doing workshops for Code Bar and for sort of various events. But Shannon, Zara, Katie, Bushra, Hashna, they've been amazing on getting me through this whole, past year and remote working in general. And I think it's just nice because they all work in tech in some form. And so instead of it being the case that, hey, let's build workshops, sometimes it's just sort of just meet up for a chat, really. And I'm there like, oh, I've had like a long day at work, or oh, I'm so tired. And they give the best advice ever. So I must have a shout out to them, really. Yeah, great crew. We're still building workshops for the community. I think our next one is a Git version control workshop at some point with Code Bar. So keep your eyes peeled for that one.
How exciting.
Exciting stuff.
We'll definitely put that on the show notes and stuff. But yeah, thank you so much for that, Kim. How about you, Emma?
Yeah, so I have an absolutely amazing mentor who I was very lucky to meet last year. Her name is Joan. She was someone who had shared on LinkedIn that she wanted to mentor, and I was like, I am jumping on that, because she's really heavily involved in the Belfast community and she's a software engineering manager, and she has always stayed technical, which is what I wanted to do. So I was like, you are amazing. But she is just always there if I ever feel overwhelmed, if I ever just need someone to chat to. And I think it's also important to have someone outside of your work to like chat to, just to be able. But she is a kick-ass mum in tech. She has a family. She is just an amazing supporter. She develops others, and she just cares so much about other people. And I would not be where I am today without this woman. She is just absolutely incredible. And every time I chat to her, I just feel so much more motivated, so much more better. And just, it's nice to have someone who you just know is always there. Even if it's not like really frequently, it's just anytime that I message her and I'm like, I need advice. And she will always check in as well. And she's like my number one supporter if I ever share news. And she is like the one person there who's always like, go for that opportunity. Like, she was the one who, whenever I said I wanted to teach, she was like, go do it. So I have a lot to thank this woman on. And then obviously, because I'm technically cheating, obviously your manager in work, my manager Cahill, is extremely great and is doing as much as he can to help push me towards being more independent and grow technically, and not to come out of engineering because it's something that I want to do and I want to continue to code. And you can do that as a woman, as someone who wants to have a family someday, and at the level that we're all at. So it's just nice to have two kind of cheerleaders who always help me out.
I feel like crying. I feel like, oh,
was not the intention.
It's so sweet. Thank you all
So
for sharing
emotional.
that. Yeah, I'm so emotional. I think I'll quickly just thank a few of my mentors, but I think I have a long list I could talk about. I actually wrote a blog post about some of the people that have really changed my life for the better, but the one that really like comes to mind is Mark Chamberlin. He might feel really embarrassed that I called him out on a podcast, but he was my rotation manager as part of my BT grad scheme. In my third rotation, he welcomed me with just open arms into the DevOps and the cloud world. And I just prior to that, I had no like cloud or DevOps or SRE experience at all. And I really sucked my first few weeks in the rotation because I had no idea what I was doing. But Mark gave me the confidence to just beat that imposter syndrome. I gave me the confidence to learn, and he did one-on-ones with me to help teach me all these different technical concepts. And now I'm where I am today as a DevOps engineer because of him, because he gave me the confidence. He told me that I can do it. I can be as fluent with like DevOps tools and stuff like that as much as I am with the front end technologies that I'm quite used to and comfortable with. He's just great. I feel like crying again. but yeah, he's a fantastic mentor, and I really genuinely thank him for the path that I've taken on now. And yeah, that's the episode, everyone. It's so nice to have chatted with all of you, and I'll share your social media and anything else you want me to promote in the show notes on my podcast. And yeah, just thank you so much for sharing all your wisdom. I think right now my biggest learning is I want to go back out there, pay it forward some more where I can, because I've sort of taken a step back over the last few years, but I want to get back in there and help out where I can, because it is doing amazing things for our communities, but also for the tech industry, and that's fantastic. So yeah, thanks again, everyone, and I'll see you all later.
She ain't never met a young and do it like me. She got a man, but she said she really